Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive into one of the most fascinating spots on Earth. I'm absolutely thrilled you're here. We are going to be exploring a single extraordinary building sitting right in the heart of Istanbul. If you've ever walked up that beautiful, historic Osman Hamdi Bey slope, right tucked between Gulhani Park and the stunning Topkapi Palace, you've actually strolled right past humanity's ultimate memory bank. We're talking about the Museum of the Ancient Orient, a crucial piece of the Istanbul Archaeology Museum's complex. And guys, this isn't just some dusty collection of old objects. It's a literal portal to the very foundations of human civilization as we know it. So let's just jump right into it because I want to challenge a common assumption right off the bat. When you think of grand, sweeping ancient romance or the absolute deepest, most intimate firsts of human emotion, where do you imagine those records are kept? Paris, Rome, maybe locked away in some underground vault in London? Well, surprisingly, some of the most intimately personal artifacts ever made by human hands, including, quite literally, history's absolute first known love poem, are resting right here in this exact museum in Istanbul. Here's how we're going to break this all down today. First, we'll look at the building's journey from an art school to a museum. Then, we'll get into humanity's firsts, focusing on love and peace. Next up, it's kings, gods, and laws, followed by the giant guardians of the past. And finally, we'll wrap up with the common memory of humanity. All right, let's get into it. Starting off with Section 1, From Art School to Museum, a Historic Foundation. Before we even peek at a single ancient artifact, we really have to give some credit to the building itself, because it's a historical masterpiece in its own right. The whole story kicks off in 1883. The brilliant Ottoman intellectual Osman Hamdi Bey commissioned this beautiful structure to be Turkey's very first school of fine arts, designed by the architect Alexandre Valori. Fast forward to 1917, and the space was actually converted into a museum specifically for Near East artifacts. Then, between 1935 and 1963, it went through a major reorganization to become the Museum of the Ancient Orient that we're talking about today. So, it literally transformed from an academy dedicated to creating new art into a time capsule protecting our absolute oldest. Moving on to Section 2, Humanity's Firsts, Love, Peace, and the Earliest Records. Now this is where things get seriously exciting. What we have here are the very first times human beings managed to carve their highest, most complex ideals into clay. And the contrast is just absolutely stunning. Think about it. On one hand, you have the colossal, the ultimate manifestation of immense state power and diplomacy. And right next to it, the deeply, profoundly intimate, a totally personal expression of human affection. Both of these incredible extremes survived millennia, and they both sit within the exact same walls today. Let's take a closer look at the first one. Behold the Kadesh Peace Treaty. This was unearthed during excavations at ancient Hattusha, and let me tell you, this little cuneiform clay tablet is an absolute titan of human history. Signed way back in 1269 BC between the Hittite king Hattusili III and the Egyptian pharaoh Ramses II, it is universally recognized as history's first known written peace treaty. Just pause and think about the historical weight of that for a second. This was a monumental leap forward in state diplomacy. It's the very first time two massive global superpowers put down their weapons and actually codified a lasting peace in writing. Simply incredible. And then, we step completely away from the battlefields and right into the human heart with history's first love poem. Discovered in the ancient city of Nippur and dating all the way back to 2000 BC, this tiny Sumerian cuneiform tablet is recognized globally as the earliest love poem ever written in literature. When you look at this 4,000-year-old piece of clay, you really can't help but feel this profound, immediate connection to the past. It's a beautiful reminder that the people who lived thousands of years ago felt the exact same passionate, driving emotions that we do right now. Which brings us to Section 3, Kings, Gods, and Laws. A look at ancient power and belief. All right, having explored this super personal and the grand diplomatic, we are now shifting gears into the nitty-gritty mechanics of raw power and ancient society. The museum houses literally thousands upon thousands of cuneiform documents from Sumerian, Akkadian, Babylonian, and Assyrian archives. We are talking about surviving copies of the famous laws of Hammurabi, highly complex mathematical calculations, incredibly detailed administrative state documents, and just a wealth of rich literary texts. Basically, you can think of this as the ancient equivalent of a massive server farm. It is the core data that kept entire empires running, meticulously preserved in baked clay. And if you want a perfect example of the sheer narrative power of ancient art, look no further than the Naram Sin stele. This piece is an absolute masterpiece of early Mesopotamian relief art. It visually narrates the sweeping, crushing military victories of the Akkadian king Naram Sin. You see, they didn't just quietly write down their victories. They carved these epic, highly dynamic tales of conquest straight into stone. The goal was simple. Anyone who looked upon this monument would immediately understand the absolute, unquestionable power of the king. But hey, the collection isn't just about Mesopotamia. The museum offers a spectacular deep dive into ancient Egypt, too. It holds a really rich array of mummies, intricate sarcophagi, funerary busts, votive offerings, and inscribed stelaes belonging to pharaohs, priests, and nobles. It gives us this crystal-clear, fascinating look right into the complex funerary rites and the incredibly rigid social hierarchy of the ancient Egyptian world. Let's move on to Section 4, Giant Guardians of the Past. These are the monumental protectors. Now, we're talking about the colossal physical protectors of ancient cities. These were designed to awe allies and completely terrify enemies. And without a doubt, some of the most glorious pieces in the entire museum are the Ishtar Gate reliefs. These were brought directly from Babylon's famous processional way, and they are made of these brilliant, vibrantly colored blue glazed bricks. Carved right into that stunning blue background are powerful reliefs of bulls and dragons, specifically the mythological Moshushu. The visual impact of these bright colors is still awe-inspiring today. Seriously, just imagine what it was like walking past them in the ancient city of Babylon thousands of years ago. It must have been mind-blowing. And believe it or not, the Guardians only get bigger from there. The museum features these absolutely colossal basalt statues and reliefs, including gate-guarding lions and sphinxes. These massive stone protectors were brought in from places like Sinchirli and Tel Halaf, and they brilliantly represent the sheer unyielding might of the late Hittite and Aramaean kingdoms. Their imposing scale wasn't an accident. It was a highly deliberate architectural choice. These were eternal sentinels, designed to intimidate absolutely anyone who dared approach the king's gates. Finally, Section 5, the common memory of humanity. Let's look at this global heritage. Okay, so we've seen first love poems, global peace treaties, complex math, and giant stone lions. But you might be wondering, why does this specific collection matter to us today? Well, it matters because of the sheer geographical and cultural breadth it covers. This single museum houses one of the richest collections in the world, spanning across Mesopotamia, ancient Egypt, Anatolia, and the Arabian Peninsula. It doesn't just tell the story of one isolated culture. It weaves together this rich, complex tapestry of the most foundational civilizations in human history, proving just how interconnected our ancient world truly was. So here is the absolute crucial takeaway. This building is not just a museum. It is a direct physical witness to humanity's written memory. It holds our very first legal codes, the absolute earliest archives of state diplomacy, and the literal genesis of architectural decorative arts. It is the foundational memory bank of human civilization, all safely kept within the walls of a historic art academy in Istanbul. Knowing that the earliest recorded expressions of human love, the very first agreements of global peace, and the grandest guardians of ancient empires are all waiting just up the Osman Hamdi Bey slope, are you ready to witness these first steps of humanity for yourself? The next time you send a text to someone you love, maybe ask yourself, what will be left of our memory in 4,000 years? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. It's been an absolute blast.